Hey guys, you're watching Black Desk Media, and on today's episode, we're talking about Disney's newest live-action film, Beauty and the Beast. Now, I know it hasn't come out yet, but I have some thoughts about it. And well, let's just say, they're not good. What? Yeah, you heard me. I'm not looking forward to this. In fact, I'm not looking in any direction that this thing is going to be. I've been getting asked a lot lately what I think about this movie, and if I'm looking forward to it. And when I answer with an opposing opinion, heads explode. Needless to say, this has been on my mind for quite a while. So let's get started. First and foremost, I love Disney. One of my favorite movies of all time is the Disney version of Beauty and the Beast. I also like sequels, and sometimes I even like remakes, even more than the original. I mean, who doesn't want to see their favorite characters come back to life or continue their stories? But there's one thing, it has to warrant them. Beauty and the Beast already exists as a perfect form. It's so good that if you ever mention it, no one ever thinks about the 15 other versions of the film we've had over the past 70 years since 1932. When you mention Beauty and the Beast to someone and they think of this, that's it. You win. There's no more competing. You take the cake, the competition, the game, it's over. It was so good that it was the first animated movie to ever be nominated for Best Picture in 1991, a time period where there was no Best Animated Film category. With that alone, there's nothing else you can add to that story. Everything in it works so well. The animation is fluid, it's warm, vibrant, colorful, it has so much charisma and energy and character to it. The music is one of a kind, and the voice acting for each of the characters is truly iconic and timeless. I mean, who watches this and says, yeah, this wasn't enough. That just wasn't quite what I needed. Basically, the point I'm making is this. Let's use an example. If you go from making one of the most iconic movies of all time, on a low budget, it's completely original, and it changes the genre for decades to come, but by movie number 8, you have Busta Rhymes being killed by Michael Myers over the internet.
I said, what you looking at me like that for? Huh? You don't get it? You don't get it?
Yeah, it's time to remake the movie. At that point, you have nothing else to lose. Here's the counter to that. If you make a movie that's so good, it changes everything, it's timeless, it helps rebrand your company, and helps even solidify the type of movies you're gonna make, and it's not been tarnished since, you don't touch it. You leave it alone. It's perfect. It's timeless. Now, if there were 17 other versions of Beauty and the Beast since then that were all terrible, by all means, get back to its roots and remake it. This leads me to my next point. This isn't about artistic endeavors. It must be said that the conversation never went. We have to remake Beauty and the Beast because we have an artistic dream that was never fully realized, and we owe it to the fans to see that it's done right. Once you accept that it isn't that, you have to come to terms with the only plausible explanation. It's about money. It's about getting as much money from you as possible, no matter the costs. Now, obviously, Disney is a business, and that makes sense, and I don't disagree with that logic, but I do disagree with the way they are going about it. The Walt Disney Company was founded by a man who changed the world because he was young and scrappy. I grew up thinking that Disney was above the mentality of retreading old ground, where once they had a blockbuster every single year, they have now settled for remakes and sequels and mediocre films now 5 times a year. Adding maybe more backstory to Belle or giving her an added feature of being an inventor doesn't make anything better. It's gimmicky. Belle is already a strong, independent, intelligent woman. There's no need to give her anything else as a character, including backstory. And that goes for all the Disney princesses in the 90s. Personally, I never thought that any of those princesses were weak or unintelligent. Ariel is very independent, and she will do everything that she can to get what she wants to follow her dream. It just so happens to be that it's love and that it's Eric. But her story and her background is so vague, anyone could apply themselves to it. We all know Belle. She loves to read. She's not gonna settle. She has bigger dreams for other things, and she's extremely independent. In fact, Beauty and the Beast is about the independence of both of those characters, letting down their walls to let people in. Take Jasmine, for example. She defies her father. She defies the rules of the kingdom and runs away. Think of Pocahontas and how strong and independent she is. Think about Mulan. Think about Meg, for example. To me, none of these characters I can look at as damsels in distress. So the fact that they are adding a little bit more to Belle's character in this movie to make her more independent seems lazy and a complete misunderstanding of what she already is. For example, would it be really vital to the story to find out that Ariel's mother was killed by fishermen and that's why Trident hates humans? No! It's absolutely enough to know that he doesn't want her to go. This lets you apply whatever you're feeling onto Trident and the situation. But the minute you add that he hates humans because of his wife being killed by humans, it now funnels everything into a tight little box that can only exist in that moment. And I can assure you, that's probably going to be a huge plot point when they remake it in a few years, live action version. The bigger question is, where does it end? Sure, it was fine when they started out, this whole live action version thing. But now that we're starting to dabble in the movies from the Disney Renaissance, that's dangerous. Why is it dangerous? Because it ends the creative circle. If all you're doing is shelling out versions of movies we've already seen, you stifle creativity internally. At the same time, you send that same message outwardly. It also sends out a message of disregard of your own brand. Typically, when you remake something, you're saying that something is wrong with the original, making it unworthy, and now there has to be a newer, better version. If all Disney's going to do for the next 17 years is remake their own movies, it sends out that message that they can't think of anything else better to do. It depicts laziness. It shows a sense of priority over money, over creativity. Think about this. Does anyone remember in the 90s when Disney, year after year, was hitting home run after home run with new movie after new movie? You had Little Mermaid, then you had Beauty and the Beast, then you had Aladdin, then Lion King, then Pocahontas, then Hercules, then Hunchback, then Mulan, then Tarzan. One after the other, these movies were knocking it out of the park with hit movies. Think about Pixar. Their first movie was about seeing life through the perspective of toys. The next movie was about seeing life through the perspective of bugs. Then monsters, hiding in your closet. And who would have ever thought that something so simple could have been such a genius idea? Then it was fish, then it was superheroes, then it was a rat, and then it was WALL-E. Am I the only one who has seen that over the past 10-15 years that the amount of original content that has come out of those two companies has been very minimal, and the things that have been original haven't been very good? Just look at the years 2000 to 2011. Nothing but garbage, save for a few gems, came out of Disney. To me, that's ridiculous. How does that happen? Explain to me how this happens. As I said before, I get trying something like a remake of Jungle Book or Maleficent. I don't think those are good ideas, but at least Maleficent has sort of a twist and a little bit of a different take on it, although lazy. And maybe the Jungle Book story wasn't as fleshed out as it could have been. I mean, it's an hour and 18-minute movie from the 60s, but Beauty and the Beast is a movie that practically helped bring a massive company back to the forefront. After decades of average, unsuccessful movies, The Little Mermaid and Beauty and the Beast helped make Disney what Disney is today. And as I said before, I don't think there's really much you can add to it. I know Beauty and the Beast wasn't originally Disney's creation, but we're getting to the point where we are starting to see the Disney version of the Disney version. It seems a bit ridiculous. I mean, look at it. It's the same movie, almost shot for shot. The bigger issue here is the trend that it sets for years to come. Right now, it's just a couple of movies that have been touched, but there's a huge lineup of planned sequels and remakes that could last up to 10 or more years. That's over a decade if you're doing one movie a year. And how long is it before audiences start to get bored? Personally, I'd say not much longer. On a side note, this has led to the idea that a remake of The Lion King is a sound idea. First of all, it doesn't count as a live action film if the entire film is CG. The Lion King was thought to be a flop, not just by audiences, but internally as well. That means that Disney watched The Lion King from beginning to end for years and could not see its own beauty. At the time, Disney's top animators preferred to work on Pocahontas, which resulted in the quote, B team to be put on The Lion King. It went on to be the highest grossing animated film of all time up until this came out. And in my personal opinion, it's one of the greatest things Disney has ever made and sadly, probably ever will make. So basically, the same studio that thought it wasn't going to be a hit now thinks they have something to make it better. They now think that they're going to add something to this masterpiece. From beginning to end, that film is perfect. I, for one, find it completely ridiculous that one, James Earl Jones is Mufasa again, and two, that people are freaking out about it. If that's the idea, then why are you remaking it in the first place? I mean, you realize this movie already exists, right? Back to Beauty and the Beast. Here are some final thoughts. I'd hoped that when the side-by-side mashup was released of the two trailers, that people would finally see how much warmer and radiant the original is. But alas, they didn't. The new live-action version is so overcrowded and so dense with detail and CGI that it completely takes away from the story. More detail doesn't mean better. I mean, just look at this. Look at this background. Doesn't this seem weird to anybody? Look at these two scenes. One is clearly better. Look at how animated and charismatic Gaston is. This is a villain. This is perfection from the voice, the look, the character. Look at Belle, her voice, just the radiant beauty in this scene. This isn't up to par. Even without the original version, this isn't good enough. I also won't say that the trailer isn't engaging or emotional, but the question is, why? And here's the reason. The reason is that it is showing you key images and moments from a film you already know. Iconic scenes that you've already filed into your brain. At the same time, an epic, larger, brand new version of Beauty and the Beast is playing, hitting every single emotional beat. This is allowing you to fill in and ignore everything that might look off or allow you to forget that you can go home right now and watch a true work of art. I don't mind Emma Watson. She's fine, but people are acting like she's one of the greatest actresses of all time. She's been in like 3 movies. In 8 Harry Potter movies, yeah, that only counts as 1 movie. She's a fine actress. I like her in the movies I've seen her in, but she's not amazing. They picked Emma Watson to sell tickets. That's it. It's another reason to get you to go see a movie. I say all of this not out of negativity, but for true passion and pure love for a company that changed the world. These are my standards. These are what affected me growing up and what still affect me to this day. These are the films that changed the world. That's true. This defined and set standards. As I said before, it started with this and it's going to end with them messing with this. And what happened to your dignity? What happened to your own sense of pride to not mess with already existing product that's still working for you? Snow White is still effective. For those of you who say, well, how are you going to get the younger audiences into it? How do you get young kids to get invested into old brands? Newsflash. The same way you got into it. I would say that 90% of us were never around to watch the original Snow White, Pinocchio, Bambi. Heck, we were barely alive to even see The Little Mermaid when it came out. By the time we did see it, we were well up 3-4 years old, maybe older. The point is this: quality lasts. It's a famous saying from Walt: quality will out. Things that are good last. Things that are bad don't. They just don't. They're still making money off a movie they made 80 years ago. That should tell you that it doesn't need to be remade. It breaks my heart that this is what's happening. And it breaks my heart even more that people support it. If you demand a better product will come. I know that seeing remakes and sequels, re-envisions of characters you know and love come to fruition again sounds like a good idea, but it almost always never works out. Take these for example. At some point this has to stop. At some point you have to demand better. And if you don't go see these things, they will stop. It's just a fact. They're making this because you're going. What you really want is to watch a good movie again. I say all of this because I want more. I want better than this. We already know that this works. Why change it? Why mess with something that's so beautifully functional? Create something new from scratch. Change the world. Forward thinking is creating a new character, creating a new IP, not retreading old ground and using CGI to help tell your story. Because if that's all you're doing, I can guarantee you it's going to be outdated before the year is up. Alright guys, that's it for now. Thanks for watching, and remember, if you liked what you saw, don't forget to subscribe. See ya.